Hello, Justice Warriors. What's going on, folks? It is Tuesday, I think. Yes, Tuesday. Oh, they all blur together. It's October 22nd. It's 1 minute to 2 o'clock, so I'm early in my live. So I thought I would just play some tunes, actually. There's that Rolling Stone song that I put a link to in my description of my last video, and I really just want to make sure that I have sound before I say much, so let me type that in. Audio. Okay, and then let's see if I can pull this up. If anybody can hear me or not hear me, please let me know. Yes, good afternoon, Mary Thomas. Can you hear me? That's what I'm really wanting to know as I'm getting started here. Here, I guess I can just go on to live myself. Oh, you can hear me, Granny Annie. Thanks. That's awesome. Okay. Because, yeah, I didn't want to do that. I did that the other day where I went live on my phone. See, there's my live, but that'll just confuse the heck out of me brain. But I did want to go to my last live. Not to watch it, but to play a song for you that I put in the description. It's that Rolling Stone song that is so amazing. And I couldn't believe I screwed up my Rolling Stones facts. I used to know that band like the back of my hand, but that was I guess 40 years ago. Anyway, are you guys familiar with this Fingerprint File song? It is one of my favorites of theirs, and it had been a long time since I even thought about it. Come on. No, I don't want Facebook. I hate Facebook. Skip. I really do hate Facebook. And this is why. Here we go. You ready? And it might take away my monetization, but I don't care. It's worth it. Do you know the song? It's called Fingerprint File. Sing it, Mac. I'm gonna choke myself. Does it sound okay? I won't play the whole thing. It's long. No, I didn't say schlong. I was going to save that for later. Fingerprint File. Listening to me on your satellite. We'll just listen for another minute. But this is from the 1970s, I think. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it's got a terrible, satanic, Titanic-looking photograph there with the goat's head suit. See, the goat's been a thing for a long time. Greatest of all time. I think this was when Mick Taylor was still in the band. He's who replaced Brian Jones. And he was the bomb. The bomb. All the music with Mick Taylor is the best. So 1969 to 1974, I think. You guys know this tune, right? Has it been a long time since you thought about it or heard it? I know I hadn't thought about it or heard it for years and years. It was one of my all-time favorites. I guess it still is. But when I learned every Rolling Stone song under the sun, this is one of the top 3 probably. It's hard to say what the other 2 were. I think Ruby Tuesday was probably one of them. Okay, I could listen to this all day, but I'm going to go ahead and stop there. That was like 4.5 minutes. And this is the long version. It's a long song anyway, but this is the 7-minute version. It's interesting because, you know, it's called Fingerprint File. It's about the FBI basically stalking and harassing the Rolling Stones, which they did. That's, you know, I mean, in all fairness, the Rolling Stones were begging for it with their activities. I mean, the kind of stuff that we're talking about, yeah. You know, the rugs and the traffic and all that terrible stuff. And I'm still a huge Rolling Stones fan, but yeah, they only didn't get arrested because back then you were allowed to do all this. You know, back then they probably would have been like the P. Diddy's and the R. Kellys of their time, maybe. Questionable. Again, I say that as a huge Rolling Stones fan, so not to be a hypocrite or anything. However, times are changing. This douchebag, Michael Jeffries, 80 years old, he stepped down from being the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch 10 years ago because this was cooking. The heat was on. And it took 10 freaking years to take him into custody. I think it was just yesterday that they arrested him and 2 of his cohorts, Matthew Smith and James Jacobson. I have been waiting for this day for years, you guys. Absolutely years. I mean, there's other folks in Columbus, Ohio that should be part of this arrest. I'm not going to name names. Let me just say everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, and learn something. All my videos are made for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. And the big problem with everything on the screen is that it just looks weird on the screen. I love these scarves, and I usually wear them a lot, but I never wear them online when I'm on my videos because they like screw up and then they're uneven, and then I try to fix it and I make it more uneven. Anyway, they're just like skinny little silk scarves that I absolutely love. My mom used to give them to me for Christmas and birthday presents, like from art shows, like hand dyed from the artists. And she actually knew how to do this type of stuff. I mean, it's not just tie-dye. It's like chemistry. It's like fancy tie-dye. Ooh, and this one is signed. Let's see if I can read the name on it. I don't think I can read that name. That's funny, though, that it has somebody's signature, Laura somebody, Laura Shea, 2010. So 14 years ago. That was a year after I moved back to Ohio. So let's get rolling, you guys. I do have well over an hour, so we'll see if we want to stay on alive for like 90 minutes. There's a lot to cover, and I'm just always happy to be on my live. Yesterday, I did a yoga video. I thought it was like the yoga video with the sound and with the visual cues and decent lighting, and just, that it's evolved to this point. And then the sound was like completely effed up, and I have no idea why. Like, I think it starts out good, and then it's just like deteriorating quickly 20 minutes in, and it's gone. You can't hear anything, or at least on my equipment. And I don't know why. Like, why was I having that problem with having any sound the day before yesterday on Sunday, the last time I did a live chat with you guys? And then you said now I have sound, so fingers crossed that it keeps working. And let me keep up with you. Yeah, Facebook, I don't even bother with any of that stuff. And I know that I miss a lot, but I already have addiction issues with my YouTube and with everything that I touch. I really can't with other social media platforms. Like, I have an Instagram account, and I have my Facebook account that I never do anything with. I even deleted my Facebook app so that I don't do anything with it. And I've got Twitter and maybe something else. I don't know. I don't do anything with them ever. So I just do my YouTube so far. So I don't remember ever hearing the song, and I was into music when I was in high school, moving the needle hours at a time. Yeah, like I said, it's probably 1974 is my guess of when that came out. Probably like one of the very last albums that they did with Mick Taylor before he was replaced by Ronnie Wood. So Ronnie Wood and Bill Wyman are the two Rolling Stones guys that I'm just like, not really a fan of. But Mick Jagger, Brian Jones, who was like the original frontman and the manager and the sex symbol of the band. And, of course, him and Mick had a clashing thing ongoing, and then he just like overreacted and was found in the same way that Christopher Skinner was found in the Micah Miller saga. Brian Jones was found in a swimming pool in 1969, and I think he'd already been out of the band maybe for like a year, but I'm pretty sure it was like a party with all of the Rolling Stones there. So maybe like a Kylie Rodney kind of thing too. Anyway, not blaming Mick for anything, but him and Brian Jones were in constant competition. They replaced Brian Jones with Mick Taylor. Mick Taylor was so freaking talented, as was Brian Jones, Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, and the drummer, Charlie Watts. Phenomenal. So when Mick Taylor quit the band, they were already so highly skilled and evolved. I mean, they'd been at the top of their game since before they even started, basically. I mean, they were kind of an engineered design. Like, they knew before they started recording that they were going to be like the Spinal Tap kind of thing. Like they were a seriously prearranged phenomena, basically. Like, most of these phenomenal bands are not prearranged. Like, if you've seen the Queen movie, what's it called? Why is it escaping me at the moment? Bohemian Rhapsody? Is that the name of the Queen movie? Like, they were just like a bunch of business guys. One of them was a dentist who played in a band like in the evenings on the weekends or something in London. Probably all of the good music started in London. Like, that's where the real scene is. Anyway, the Beatles, they weren't necessarily bound for fame, but the Rolling Stones were actually bound for fame before they got started. And Mick Jagger, oh, let me just insert this little smidge of information that you probably don't know because it's mind blowing. Mick Jagger was the last one to be recruited into the band before they started their thing. And he was in college. I don't think he finished his degree, but he was studying journalism of all things, you guys. He was probably into true crime. So he was getting his master's degree in journalism when Brian Jones talked him into joining this band. And then, of course, the rest is history. Anyway, I'd say one of my all-time favorite albums of the Stones is Beggar's Banquet. And that one is really much like the Goat. Goat's Head Soup is good too. Sticky Fingers, I could go on and on. But as far as all-time favorite songs, Ruby Tuesday, Fingerprint File, and a Robert Jones song. I'll have to put it in the description later. What is the Robert Jones song that they are probably still not paying his estate for? And I've seen them live, I think only twice. Let's see. I'm just going to Google Robert Jones. I almost got the name of it. It almost came to me once I started typing Robert Jones, Rolling Stones. And you guys would crack up. I tried to type song and I typed dong. You know what's been on my mind. Okay. And why is it telling me all the stuff about Brian Jones? No, I want Robert Jones. It's because it's listening to me talk. Sorry, this is really bugging me now. Oh, it's Robert Johnson. That's why. So Robert Johnson, Love in Vain. That's one of my all-time favorite songs of theirs. I could make you a song list. Let It Bleed, of course. That's what Love in Vain is from. And that is one of the best songs. Okay. I really wasn't expecting to talk about the Rolling Stones. I came on here expecting to talk about all these other things, like what I put in the description. But, I'm just so excited to have you guys here. So let me try to keep my attention span and your attention span alike. Let's see. X, Rugs, and Rock and Roll, 68 to 74. Yes, absolutely. Watching the world drift away. I'm thinking about going to the other video app and doing reaction to Kylie videos. Some include other stuff that is crazy. It's a way to make old new elsewhere. Just a thought. I was into the music sound, have no idea names of anybody. Her heroin addicts, all of them. Good point, Watching the World, and thank you for splitting up your word like that. Yeah, so I did a research project in 9th grade for school on the Rolling Stones, and my research project was all of their arrests for Rugs, and it was probably between 50 and 100 at that point in time. And that was only in like 1982, 1981, when I was in 9th grade, probably 82. Yeah, the school year of like 81 to 82, excuse me. And they I think that the number was probably like 78 or something like that. It was way up there. It was all the times they'd been arrested, but I don't think any of the times did they ever spend the night in jail. I don't think. Like, they would get arrested in the airports all the time for trying to smuggle their stuff from one country to another. If they would have just stayed in one country, they wouldn't have been getting arrested so often. Shan is here. Hey, girlfriend. I was so excited to wake up to this news in the AM. I know, in that huge trafficking bust in Texas. I haven't seen anything about the one in Texas yet, Shan. If you want to mention it, go for it. I've been waiting for Michael Jeffries to get arrested for years. He wasn't on my radar until just a couple of years ago, but I knew that it was cooking. I knew that the feds had a big case against him for like a decade, and why he wasn't getting arrested, it was blowing my mind, especially the fact that he's 80 years old right now. I thought, man, they're probably not going to get around to it until he's passed away, right? Like, that was probably their plan. He probably had paid some people off or something. Wow. What pigs. So yeah, he had to step down from his position in Abercrombie and Fitch. But what they're really going after, like with the Harvey Weinstein, the P. Diddy, the R. Kelly, and even Larry Nassar, and then this little gang of Abercrombie folks. What they're really going after is perverts who took advantage of young people and their dreams. So people that wanted to get into acting or music or modeling or Olympic gymnastics, they would have to be subjected to these absolutely disgusting pieces of crap. And it was like an open secret. Everybody knew it was going on, and nobody was going to do anything to stop it. Yeah, I knew about the bust in Florida, Shan. I think it was 6 different clubs busted for trafficking. That's awesome. And like, what part of Texas? So yeah, it cracks me up because the Florida bust was just like a week ago, and I think it was 160 people arrested. And I was like, what is it with that number? Every time they bust a ring of traffickers, and a lot of times it's child traffickers, there's always 160 of them. It seems like. Have you guys noticed that? Is it just me? Am I hallucinating? I mean, but that's why I played that song Fingerprint File, because a lot of people thought that the Rolling Stones were paranoid and that they just thought the FBI was watching them, and that when they were talking about fingerprint files and satellites, people were just like, man, these guys are tripping. Like, they're just totally off in space. There was no such thing as satellites back then, practically. And, you know, the FBI, they weren't following everybody the way they are now with all of these gadgets that we all have in our lives. And how they keep up with all of us, well, now they have the AI to do it. But imagine before AI. They've probably had AI for a lot longer than they're admitting, though, right? So, watching the world. Hello, hello. JR Nana Boomer. So, yeah. Does it seem to you like it's always 160 people? Like, why don't they just arrest all of them at once? But it seems like out of that 160, there's always like 5 that worked at Disney World and 5 that are pediatricians. And I'm trying to think what other profession is almost always in there. You got Disney World, you got pediatric doctors, and then you usually have like youth pastors. Think about freaking, I didn't say it, effing JP Diddy, right? These youth pastors. He was the youth pastor. That's how he freaking met Micah. Oh, so disgusting. So here we are coming to the last week of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I want to just share a very obscure story with you guys about my life. And I'm not sharing it to brag. It's disgusting, and I could cry. So let me just spit it out so you're not like, what is she talking about? Brag, disgusting, cry? Like, what? How do those things all go together? So you know that I grew up all over the country, pretty much coast to coast, like Washington, D.C. and Southern California, Northern California, and Ohio. And it was just like back and forth every year. You know, my dad was completely insane. My mom lived in D.C. My father took custody of the kids, and one year we'd live in California, the next year we'd live in DC, then back to California, then back to DC. He was just trying to play her and manipulate her, and we were the pawns. So then, living in California, we started, hanging out with the rich and famous on the beach. I mean, first we were living in Beverly Hills, and when I saw that movie, The Slums of Beverly Hills, I was like, that was our life. There are no slums in Beverly Hills, but the ghetto of your mind, to quote Ricky Lee Jones, my father invented a ghetto in Beverly Hills, and that's where we lived. So if you've seen that movie, the ghetto of slums of Beverly Hills, the song is Ghetto of My Mind. Anyway, then eventually we landed in Malibu, and he invented a slum in Malibu because there was not a slum there either. But, you get what you put out. And he was a dirtbag, as you guys know. So when we lived in Malibu, especially, we were hanging out with so many rich, famous people. You'd think I was lying if I dropped all the names. And when I moved to Ohio in high school, and people would ask me who I knew, and I wouldn't tell them because it just seemed tacky. And then they'd like wear me down, and I'd tell them, and then they'd be like, "You're lying." Yeah, right. Don't believe you. And then I'd be like, man, if I was going to lie, I would say Mick Jagger. Come on. I wouldn't waste my time with again, I don't want to name drop, but this, that, and the other, lots of people. Lots of them. They all lived in Malibu, especially the ones with kids. And so one of these really famous people, and I'll drop the name because that's the story that I want to tell you. And with Domestic Violence Awareness Month, it all ties in for me. So you guys know Charlie's Angels, Farrah Fawcett, the television movie that she did back in the early 80s, The Burning Bed, that was like earth-shattering, groundbreaking about domestic violence, right? Excellent movie. And it really changed the horizon of our culture. Like nobody talked about domestic violence, thought about domestic violence. I guess right before that, Brooke Shields and Blue Lagoon, they kind of like verged on it with the boyfriend burning down her house. But I don't think anybody got hurt when he burnt down her house. So anyway, back to The Burning Bed with Farrah Fawcett, she's a domestic violence victim in the movie, and she eventually burns her own house down with her abuser in it, in bed. That's why it's called The Burning Bed. And it's very well done. So when this happened with Ryan O'Neal, was also a big actor, if you guys remember, like, what was that movie, Heaven, like 7 Minutes to Heaven or something like that? I don't even remember, but I always get Warren Beatty and Ryan O'Neal confused because I knew both of them. I knew both of their kids, and they were both very much the same. So I'm thinking of a Warren Beatty movie, the one about heaven. Ryan O'Neal, Tatum O'Neal. He was a real rat bastard. I think he just passed away a couple of years ago, but he didn't even know that I knew his kids. He was not involved with his kids' lives at all. He was involved with Farrah Fawcett. And in the summer, after I'd moved to Ohio, the first summer, so after 10th grade, I went back to visit my friends in Malibu for the whole summer. And I was obsessed with running and making sure I was extremely fit. And believe it or not, I would run on the beach in my string bikini. Again, it was early 80s, and that was just a thing that lunatics in California did back then, right? If you could, if you got it flaunted. So I was running on the beach, and I jogged by him and Farah playing frisbee. And again, he didn't know me. He had no idea who I was. I was not great friends with one of his kids, but I was friends with one of his kids. And he never met me. He didn't know that I knew his kid. I had never met Farrah Fawcett. Anyway, I jogged by them and thought, oh my God, it's Farrah Fawcett. Like, I'm a huge fan, right? And then I hit a point with rocks where I had to turn around and come back. And so when I'm jogging back by them, Ryan like stops what he's doing, and he stands there with his arms open, blocking me as if I'm going to run into his arms and hug him. And I, kind of did the dance to get around him, and he's laughing and I'm laughing, and Farrah's maybe kind of laughing. I don't know. But it blew my mind, and it destroyed the fabric of my brain, because I was just thinking Farrah Fawcett was like the it girl. She had been for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. She was the bee's knees, and he had her. She was his. And he's just like throwing her aside and making a come on to a random teenager on the beach, like right in front of her. Like, oh yeah, that's cute, Ryan. Like, funny, not funny. I was so blown away. It literally was traumatizing to me. I wanted to gag. I didn't know what to do with that, where to go with that. I was going to share it with you. I thought about it a few days ago. And to me, it is relevant because, like I said, I'm not bragging. It's disgusting. It's hideous. And it completely was beyond my wildest imagination that there were douchebags like that. That there were douchebags in the world that would be dating somebody like Farrah Fawcett Majors and have her as their own possession, that would then flirt with a random 16-year-old right in front of her. That's my point in sharing it. So thanks for listening, you guys. I still need therapy over that one. I mean, it was flattering for like a second, but I was so disgusted, especially because I was friends with one of his kids, and I saw that as basically what it is, like the pedo stuff. I was just like, this man was like 40, 45, and I was literally 16. Like, I just turned 16, or maybe it was even right before my birthday. Maybe I was still 15. Anyway, poor Farrah. And he got his comeuppance. He had to go like 20 years without doing a movie, because I'm sure he did that to all the wrong people, probably Harvey Weinstein and others, right? I mean, who knows? But he did not get a role for like, I want to say 20 years. And then when he finally did get another role in a movie, because he was in Bonnie and Clyde. That was his big thing. That was one of his big hits. But he was also in Paper Moon with his 10-year-old daughter, Tatum. Anyway, he was in one of my favorite little indie movies that I've recommended to you guys a million times, but I haven't brought it up in a long time. Zero Effect. I haven't used my line in forever about the the three obs from that movie, Zero Effect, that he's in with Bill Pullman and Ben Stiller. And so Bill Pullman is the private investigator who's training Ben Stiller to be a private investigator, and like his assistant. Ryan O'Neal is this rich guy who hires the PI to solve a mystery for him. And as Bill Pullman is training Ben Stiller, he's like narrating to the screen and training all of us to become private investigators. And he starts out with, all you really need are the two obs. the observation, be observant and be objective. Those are your two obs. But there's actually another ob that's obvious. Don't miss the obvious. So there's three obs. Be objective. Don't miss the obvious. Be observant. That's all we need. And we'll get Kylie Rodney's case cracked, right? And all the others. Okay. Anyway, let's see. Malibu, Newport, Balboa Island. I know what you mean, Jazz. They're just people who try to be people sometimes. The burning bed. Yeah, and that's the thing is like I really saw these people as people. I didn't you lose that like luster, especially when they're such jerks. And most of the rich famous people are jerks, in my opinion. So, in that setting back in those days, nobody cared who was famous and who wasn't famous in Malibu. It was more like if you could surf and if you were cool, like that's all people cared about. If you were tan, right? And being ripped. I mean, that was a no-brainer without question. That was the most important thing, right? Malibu was my second home. D'Amore's Pizza. I want some now. Dang it, Nancy. I don't even know that pizza place. I don't know if we were there different times. I was there like in 1976 to 1982. And not solid. 76 to 82. I think we moved back to the East Coast once or twice during that time. So I don't remember that pizza place. There was the one down at the by Market Basket, in the town square area. Is that what it was called? It was next to the movie theater. Anyway, Carlos and Pepe's was a big favorite restaurant for Mexican food. The Baja Cantina, which was like a hole in the wall, but really good. And then, that Italian place. There was like Castillo's or Castriano's, the Italian restaurant that was like a mile south of the town square, a mile south of Market Basket. Why can't I think of it? My brain, no worky. Jazz was a hottie jogging in a string bikini. Oh, you're so cute, Granny Annie. I no comment. Yellow polka dotted. The good old days. Actually, that bikini was like a raspberry, like raspberry beret from that Prince song. It was a raspberry bikini with black string. That was what held it together. And then it had like actually Asian writing on it. So I was into the Asian stuff even back then. I loved that bikini. That was one of my favorites. All the others were like mismatched. Like your bottoms normally were a solid color and then your top was printed floral. And they had to be mismatched and they had to be from one of the surf shops or somebody had them handmade from the Natural Progression surf shop. Oh, the good old days. Yeah, right. Okay, exactly. He had her, not you, random foxy teenage girl in string bikini. I mean, I wasn't bad looking, but I wasn't freaking Farrah Fawcett. He was just being a pig. He was just trying to like show Farrah that he was better than her and that he didn't need her. He was just trying to like rub her self-esteem, if she had any, and I'm sure she did. He was just trying to rub it out. He was just trying to destroy her. Wasn't Ryan gossiped to have done something with Tatum? Well, so both of his kids were very neglected and very spoiled, and they had a lot of money and a lot of rugs. And I don't know about that, but it wouldn't surprise me. But I don't want to say that because I really don't know. What I do know is that she was in a really bad off road accident, and she is lucky to be alive. And she was burned like half of her body, and that's why she wasn't in movies for a really long time. I think she was like 19 when she was in that car accident off-roading. But yeah, it was just like a party animal lifestyle, and that was from the time that the kids were really young. I don't know what happened to the mom. Like, she just wasn't around. Ryan was rich and famous. Tatum had done the Blue Moon movie, and then what was it, like National Velvet? Paper Moon. Paper Moon was the movie that he was in with her when she was 10, and she won an Oscar. And then his son, whose name I won't say just because he might not want the publicity. And I used to be Facebook friends with him. I stayed in touch with him for a long time. But yeah, it was just too much money and too much rugs and no consistency, no stability. So I don't know about that, JR Nana Boomer. I've never heard about that. So what I do know is that he treated Farrah like the story that I just told you. He was a jerk to her. So, like 20 years later when she was on the David Letterman show and she thought that the buildings behind him and all the lights, she thought that that was like a window looking out into the city, because she was probably really strung out and nervous and high. And my heart just broke for her that she was portraying all of that on national television. I think that was pretty riveting for most of America to see her being so out of it. And I don't think people knew how crappy her relationship with Ryan O'Neal was. And I certainly didn't know, but just that one little incident gave me a lot of insight into just the dynamic of men thinking that they own women and thinking that they can just toss women aside and have whoever they want and treat people however they want. And it's nice when they get their comeuppance, isn't it? He was on Bones for a long time. Oh, was he? I didn't know that. My kids watched Bones. I didn't really watch it too much. But yeah, Warren Beatty, I think, was like that. I'll say that because I was there, and he had 2 daughters that I was friends with, and when he married Annette Bening many years later, he said he didn't have any kids. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. I don't know what happened with that, but I can guess. So they acted like he was this 50-year-old man who never had any kids, who married Annette Bening, who was like 20 or 30 years younger than him. And then they had kids together. And I was just like, man, what did he do with the other ones? Like, I don't even want to know. And he did some creepy stuff with me too, which is why I'm willing to say something about it, like I said, because I was there. But I got out of that situation without being violated, but that was definitely his intention. And I was 12? Was I 12 or was I more of a teenager when that happened? I don't know. I was probably older than 12, but I could have been as young as 12 when the thing happened with that douchebag. Anyway, let's talk about these douchebags in our cases. I wanted to talk about this horrible situation that just occurred yesterday in Fall City, Washington, because I've been to Fall City a bunch of times. This is a town east of Seattle. It's a tiny town in the Cascades, in the foothills of the Cascades. 2,000 people in this town. And there was a teenager arrested, 5 people in the same family deceased, a mother, a father, and 3 kids. And then 1 female teenager who was shot twice, who survived, who was taken to the hospital that I once worked at, Harborview, which is like the hospital that they made Grey's Anatomy about. Like that was about Harborview, but they pretended that it was in West Seattle instead of like right there on Capitol Hill where it was located. So anyway, the surviving teen was taken to Harborview. 3 kids that I think were all teenagers and the 2 adults deceased. And then the boy that was arrested, I think he was 15 or 16, if anybody knows and wants to chime in. But all of these kids, I think all 5 of the kids were in the custody of the 2 adults. I don't know if they're all like natural siblings or if it's a mixed family or, you know, like a blended family or what, but it sounds like all 5 of the kids lived in the house. And then they're calling it a domestic violence situation. So I was like, well, why are they calling it domestic violence? Because usually domestic violence implies a romantic relationship. So I don't know why they're calling it a domestic violence case, but it's absolutely tragic. It's a huge case that just happened yesterday, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it and learn more about this kid who took 5 people's lives and shot the one survivor twice. So absolutely tragic. A town of 2,000, you guys. Like that's the same size of that town in Kentucky where the sheriff shot the judge. When you're in a town that small, everybody knows everybody. Oh, so yeah. Where are you guys at? It is not limited to Hollywood actors. They just have the money to shut people up about it. Well, and also one of the reasons I focus on the entertainment industry is because I know some things about it from knowing people that are part of it. But I think that the mainstream of our culture doesn't realize how damaged these people are. So I've said this before, like we make a poster child out of somebody like Lindsay Lohan or Britney Spears. And of course, it's always a young woman who's just crazy, right? She's lost her mind and she's doing all these drugs and she's freaking off with people, right? And they just get crucified when really that's pretty much everybody in the entertainment industry, as far as I know, in my experience. Not 100%, but very close. And it's my perception, my opinion, that it's like that because these people are rich and famous and nothing is ever enough. There's no money that's enough. There's no love or attention that's enough. There's no high that's enough. And so they tend to overdose. They tend to be self-injurious or injurious to others. It's people just get chewed up and spit out, you know? I mean, all too often. The rugs and the alcohol and the freak offs. I mean, P. Diddy didn't invent white parties or freak offs. I mean, they're just outing him for that. I mean, those things I'm sure was what was going on at the Abercrombie and Fitch estates with the models. You know, they would have these long weekend gigs where the teenagers were there on the estate for the entire like 3 or 4 days, all of them, all of the models with the owners. And it was a modeling weekend and they were doing photo shoots, right? So who do you think got to be in the photo shoots? I mean, that's a great way to have your way with whoever you want. It's like, well, whoever pleases me the most gets to be on the cover of the catalog or what have you. I mean, seriously, that's how they did it. That's disgusting. Yeah, I thought when I moved to Ohio that I was leaving all that stuff in the rearview mirror, but no, it's here too. Right, like you said, it's everywhere. It's not just Hollywood. Um, it's just that so many people for so long were so deceived about Hollywood actors. Like, for instance, somebody like Larry Hagman, who played the master on I Dream a Genie. Like, if that doesn't convey the Domestic Violence Awareness Month right there. Larry Hagman was in, what was that big TV show that came after that? Dallas, where he was like the big daddy. He was like the JP Diddy of the TV show Dallas, like the nighttime soap opera. And everybody thought that he was just like Mr. Clean. Like, they believed the character that he played as the astronaut on I Dream a Genie, which he was a pig in that anyway, but he was a clean cut pig. So people thought he must have been nice. Michael Landon, same thing, from Little House on the Prairie. People thought that they were like the good guys because that's who they played on TV, and they were the furthest thing from it. Then somebody like Archie Bunker, Carol O'Connor, who played the douchiest pig you can imagine on All in the Family. And he was absolutely the complete opposite. He was like not only a very loving, nice, humble person, he also was like a social activist. And that was his social activism, was inventing that TV show All in the Family and playing this repugnant, racist, sexist POS to show everybody how stupid it was. So Carol O'Connor was phenomenal. And then, the daddy on Little House on the Prairie and the master on I Dream a Genie, they were not what you thought they might have been. So anyway, enough about all that. Let's move on. Let's get our minds out of the Hollywood ghetto, the slums of Beverly Hills, and the Malibu ghetto. I mean, because in my lifetime, the way I perceived things was that people that were rich and famous were often much worse off than kids who were abused and in our like child protective services programs. And, I worked with a lot of that population too. And those people seem to have a better disposition and a better chance at mental health than people in the entertainment industry. That's my point. Mental health. Let's just stay focused on that, right? Since that's kind of my thing, my shtick. That's what I know about. Harborview is a great trauma hospital, J.R. Nana says. And see, Harbor Zoo, as we called it in our crisis and commitment team with King County, we traveled all over King County doing our crisis interventions, but a lot of them were in the emergency room at Harborview, because when people were being all crazy and dangerous, if they didn't land in jail, they'd land in Harborview. And I mean, sometimes we'd go see them out in the community, but it was better to see them in a controlled setting so that you knew that they were safe and that you were safe. And they usually, it didn't usually escalate to the point of calling the county designated mental health professionals, which was like the brain police. It didn't usually get identified as needing that highest form of intervention until they were in the emergency room or in jail and self-injurious. And, staff didn't feel like they could keep them safe in the ER, or they needed an involuntary treatment, an involuntary commitment, but they needed to get the evaluation first. or in the jail settings. I mean, people do off themselves in jails. I mean, and the jail is responsible if they don't call and have the evaluation done. So a lot of times they're just covering their butts by having these evaluations done. So they can say, well, we did it, we called, and then it happened. So it's not on us, it's on them, right? Let's see. Cabo is funny. Rich old men are a dime a dozen and nobody cares. Right, exactly. I mean, people are starting to care. When you think about like women in the adult entertainment industry, remember I was saying just recently, I'd forgotten about how years ago in police reports, if the victim, say, was deceased and unalived and it was a homicide, they would say NIH, no, or NHI, no human involved. NHI. It would say that in the file, and they would not do an investigation. That was standard. They thought of these people as disposable and subhuman. Horrible, disgusting. And people in the industry, women knew that. So they knew that they were in a very dangerous predicament, and they couldn't get out of that industry because they were usually threatened by the people turning them out, that if they even tried, that they would off them. But they would get offed in freak offs. I mean, snuffed out. I mean, gross. Annie, are you shopping? Oh, Granny Annie has her rich old man already. Drift away. I'm in a town of 400,000. I don't know my own neighbors. I spend too much time online watching the world drift away. Oh, is that why you have your handle named that? See, I didn't see the name of your handle like that. I saw it. I'm such a Pollyanna. I saw that as like watching the world and drifting off into the sunset. Isn't that crazy that I completely misinterpreted? But yeah, I mean, I like to say that, good neighbors, good fences make good neighbors. Like, it's nice to know your neighbors, but it's also nice just to keep it light. And, I have to be open and honest. I am living a lot of my life online, and I like it like that because I'm kind of a homebody, kind of a quiet person. I like to keep to myself, and then I can have social interaction and also be flying solo, basically. I like my solitude. But then I live in a house with a big family, so my solitude is just moments here and there when I get lucky. Like it's 3:00 right now, and at 3:30, that's why I need to be done with my life by 3:30 because the house gets loud. So let's see. They are victims of abuse, the intimate type and otherwise, cash cows for their management team. Yeah. Or the Hefner Mansion, the Hugh Hefner. Yeah, and see, that's why I love that song by Weezer, Beverly Hills. For the first year or so of having my YouTube channel, my profile picture was actually River Cuomo from Weezer singing the song Beverly Hills in the grotto in the Hugh Hefner Mansion estate, the pool grotto, and he's like playing his guitar, and I loved that. I love having that for my little personal thumbnail photograph. But that's the coolest song. I'm going to put a link to that song in my description because, yeah, music just keeps me uplifted. Hefner had founded Playboy in Chicago in 1953. Oh, well, thank you for that fact, Watching the World. That makes sense, doesn't it? That it was like a mafia type of thing. And I love Chicago. Chicago is a cool city. I mean, it was built on mafiosa type of stuff, but it's still a cool city. I mean, it's got a tragic history, but there's a lot of culture and creativity in Chicago, and a lot of nice, literally nice underground bars that are like velvet wall to wall, like the floors, the ceilings, the walls, the furniture. I mean, only in Chicago. I question SF being connected with Hefner and underground tunnels, etc. Does he say that he is, or does he say that he isn't? Because, yeah, all of that goes together. And, yeah, that's why I think that our dear Kylie Rodney could have gotten tangled up in that mess, too. And probably did get tangled up in that mess. And for all we know, might still be tangled up in that mess. Although I think that it's probably over for her, unfortunately. He did freak offs with every party. Hugh Hefner, oh, his whole life was a freak off. Do you believe there's driving tunnels underneath Los Angeles? Dang it, Nancy, what a good question. I believe that there's tunnels under every city for, like the infrastructure. And Seattle is really famous for the tunnels under the city, and you can take a tour of all those tunnels, which I never did that. That was more like a tourist thing. But yeah, as far as I know, there's tunnels under every city. And in the Midwest, where I live now, some universities have tunnels to go across campus so that in the winter you don't have to go out in the freezing cold and slip on the ice. So tunnels aren't necessarily a dark thing, although they can lend themselves to the darkness quickly and easily. So driving tunnels, I just don't know. I would think so, though. It's such a big city and it's been around for so long, and with all the Hollywood gangsta stuff that's gone on for so long. There's 100% driving tunnels under LA. Yeah, Shan knows. Well, I'm glad that I came up with my independent opinion and guess right before I saw your determination there, Shan. Shan's much more educated about some of that stuff than I am. I just hung out on the beach. That's all I know. I would go to a lot of the parties, too. That's why I'm so lucky that I didn't end up like Kylie Rodney. You think celebs are going to get stuck in traffic or get caught with their traffic? Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one, Shan. I mean, yeah, the super wealthy ones just fly around in their helicopters and jets so they don't have to deal with traffic at all. That type of traffic. And yeah, then they can just play around with the type of traffic that they want to be involved in, right? Boring Company, Elon completed some of those tunnels. Wow. Why do you think he exposed it and abandoned his contract? Wow. I had no idea, Shan. See, I just don't pay attention to a lot of this stuff. That is wild. Absolutely wild. No, he doesn't say he is. His photography connection makes me think that's how he has that kind of intel along with military pilot PI. Strange. Yeah, I'm with you, JR Nana. I agree with that about SF Investigates. So he doesn't say that he has those contacts, but he obviously does. And yeah, he was probably one of the photographers out there at the Abercrombie and Fitch estates, right? He probably seriously knows Michael Jeffries. I know that Michael Jeffries hung out with Epstein. Epstein hung out in Columbus a lot. So, Ohio is really bad for trafficking, and Columbus especially. I think Toledo, Ohio, is one of the worst cities, to my knowledge, for trafficking. But Columbus is huge, absolutely huge. It's centrally located. It's flat, so it's really easy to fly in and out of on smaller aircrafts. Too easy. And then you've got one of the biggest universities in the country there, one of the biggest universities in the world, but OSU is the second largest university in the entire United States, you guys. For anybody who didn't know that, it's like UCLA is the only one that's bigger. And they haven't changed much in size. Like, I think that UCLA has been about 160,000 population for decades. And then OSU is a lot smaller. I want to say like half that, but I can't remember. I'd have to Google it. Let me Google, so I'm not going to have to check it later and correct myself. Population. I mean, they both look like cities themselves, both of the campuses. Population of UCLA. What? 47,000 students, including undergraduates and graduates. It says this makes UCLA one of the largest universities in the United States, in California. So what does it say the population of OSU is then? Yeah, see, this is wrong. This is why you can't trust Google. It says that OSU is 66,901 students across all campuses and levels. Undergraduate, 52,000 plus. Graduate, 11,000 plus. Professional, 3,000 students. So Google is saying that OSU is larger than UCLA, and that's definitely not true. And yeah, the main campus is about 60,000. That's what I thought. 60 to 65,000. Let's see. But why is it the largest college campus by student enrollment is Arizona State, more than 80,000 students. And then I don't know that this knows what it's talking about, but anyway, that's what Google thinks. I don't know if you guys are nerds like I am and care about this stuff. I'm just always curious. And then Texas A&M, 75,000. University of Central Florida, 68,000. OSU, it says fourth, 60,000. New York University, just under 60,000. University of Illinois, Champaign, almost 60,000. But see, we're still not even at UCLA. This is like the top 10. Florida International University, 55,000. UF, which, they couldn't call it FU, right? Florida University. They should have called it FU. I have a nephew who went to school there. That was always our big joke, that he was going to FU. So 55,000. University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, almost 55,000. University of Texas, Austin, 52,000. UW is number 11 in Seattle, 52,000. Purdue University is 12. I had no idea. Purdue University is in Indiana, like Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? 52,000. University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, 52,000. Rutgers, I didn't know Rutgers was that big. I've been there, 50,000. Penn State, I've been there too, also 50,000. That's 15. Michigan State, 50,000. USF, 50,000. University of Arizona. Madison, Wisconsin, 50,000, been there. USC, number 20. That's University of Southern California, not UCLA. And then Bloomington, Indiana University is 21. I've been there. That's an amazing place too. And it goes on and on. So UCLA, it says, is number 23. I don't believe this dumb thing. No way. No way. And, if we were in Wayne's World, they'd say, way. Let me set that down now that I'm done fubbing you guys. Online students too. That's a great question, JR Nana. See, you're like up with the times, aren't you? I almost got expelled for getting caught in the tunnels under Texas Tech. Good old days. Oh, see, because, students aren't supposed to know about that. They're only supposed to go down there blindfolded, right? University of Central Florida. My grandson's there now as we speak. He's at school. UCF, would that be in Jacksonville? It was probably on the list there, but let me just Google that real quick. UCF. Orlando. Oh, see, I didn't know that they had a big school right there next to Disney World. Who's got time for studying when you got Disney World right there and the Epcot Center, right? And yeah, it's huge. 68,000 students. So UCF is roughly the same size as OSU. Wow, did I just have my brain cracked open? I've been looking up the size of these colleges like UCLA and OSU specifically since I was in high school applying to colleges. And then when my daughter was applying to colleges a few years ago, I looked into the whole thing again and thought, well, it's probably shifted around a lot because it's been, decades. And I was surprised that it hadn't shifted around. I thought that UCLA was still the largest and OSU was still the second largest. But again, Google's not always accurate. And, are they talking about all of the faculty that are there too? Because you've got all the faculty that are teaching, and then you've got faculty that are just research faculty that aren't even teaching. They just work there. So that's where it really becomes like a city, is that you've got all of these people that just basically live their entire lives on campus. There's restaurants there. There's buses, buses that look like city buses, but they're just for campus. I mean, that's how OSU and UCLA are. So anyway, tunnels, Idaho 4 subject. There you go. Yeah, Orlando. Thank you, JR Nana. So that's not a very big school. I remember off the top of my head that that's about 15,000. I mean, it's not a tiny school, but that's not that big. Like my daughter was at the University of Dayton for 4 years, and that school, I thought it was 10,000, but maybe University of Dayton is 20,000. Let me see. See, this is what I do. I'm such a nerd. My brain gets curious and I got to look this stuff up. University of Dayton population. Let's see. No, this thinks I want Delaware. Now it thinks I want pop music. Let's see. And okay, so yeah, it is just like 8,000 women, 8,000 students, and it says women are 48%, men are 52%. So yeah, it is under 10,000. And that's what I thought. I thought it was 10,000, but then I was like, am I wrong? Is it like 20,000? Was I like off the whole 4 years that she was there? Yes, the tunnels in the Idaho 4 case. And again, you've got the really cold weather there. So, yeah, they probably have tunnels all over in Idaho and also in Pullman, probably. I mean, I know, like I said, the universities here in Ohio have them for students to walk across campus. It's just like military bases. There you go. And then people act like you're some kind of conspiracy theorist when you start talking about the tunnels. Man, you're just not supposed to talk about them, I guess, right? That's the trick. So we are at 3:15. Wow, we've already been on for an hour and 15 minutes. See, I just enjoy talking with you guys so much. Um, so I came on here to talk about that horrible case in Fall City and to talk about the big bust with Michael Jeffries, Matthew Smith, James Jacobson. So Michael Jeffries is 80. Matthew Smith is 61. I don't know how old James Jacobson is, if anybody wants to look it up. But I was going to make a really bad joke about them getting schlonged like Weinstein and Epstein and R. Kelly and P. Diddy. They're all getting schlonged. Can I say sorry, not sorry? Dang. Remember, they were talking about tunnels connecting to the house in Idaho. Right. And that house, 1122 King Road, that residence, the way it was built in like different levels and different, it looks like when it started, because it was basically like a backyard shed probably to start. And then it got turned into like an in-law unit. And then they added on, and then they added on some more. And then when they demolished it, it's like, are they just trying to hide the tunnels and stuff? Like, I mean, that's all that did for me was make them look really suspicious and like they're breaking the law and that they're covering it up, because you shouldn't be knocking down the building until after the trial. I think that's really basic common sense. But the gaslighting, they're like, oh no, we got to burn it down or bulldoze it down so that, people can like get over what happened. It's like no one's ever going to get over what happened, especially the people that had personal connections. No one's getting over that, whether it's there physically or not. And of course, it's a horrible reminder to see it there. But even when it's not there, you're still going to have the horrible reminder. And, unless you washed it away with a river, like some of these towns in the Hurricane Helene. Man. So I put up a couple of community posts the last couple of days, you guys. One of them, I think the very last one I did, is a news segment about the mountains right outside of Asheville that got completely washed away. So this little tiny town called Relief, and it's so cute, and it like literally made me cry. This news story, they're interviewing this woman who's grown up there her whole life. I think she's like fourth generation. Her mother's 96, and they owned like the general store in town, and it's like one of the only things left in town. There wasn't that much there to begin with. But her 96-year-old mother, they show her, and I put in my my community post of it, I put the timestamp of where they show her 96-year-old mother singing. And she's just like, the daughter said that she woke up the morning after the hurricane singing. Her mother did. And then they like cut to her mother singing. And I just like, it just brought tears to my eyes. It was amazing. The human spirit is so resilient. Yes. Absolutely. What else did I post? I reposted BoobTube TV's community post because I thought it was effing brilliant. And I think a lot of you guys that are here in the chat made comments. And I loved her post. I loved the thread. I haven't even really kept up with everything that she's talking about, but the gist of it. And I'm just so grateful that there's this whole community of us online that still care so much about Kylie Rodney, and we always will. Obviously, it's not going to go away. It's not going to fade. We give a crap about Kylie Rodney and people like her. And there needs to be answers. There needs to be justice, even if it takes 5 years or 20 years, but hopefully it won't. Hopefully it can happen much sooner than that. It's only been 2 years. I mean, I honestly thought by this point in time that somebody, the weakest link would have cracked. But, you got to remember back to the case and how Kate Cunha went to Europe right away and then decided to stay there forever, apparently, allegedly. That's suspicious. Like, what was she trying to get away from? The answer to me is in the question. Remember, be observant, objective, and don't miss the obvious. And that's really obvious. Everything in the case is really obvious. Like Scammy is really obvious. American Dream Chaser is really obvious. Xaname and SF and Skidmark, they're all super obvious. Let's see. All top secret until they became popular modes of transportation. The case has been closed, though, right? Which case? The Kylie case? The Idaho 4 case? I mean, I don't think the case is closed. That's a good question. With Idaho 4, it's a really good question. Maybe it is, but I mean, I don't trust that case when they're trying to hang it all on the guy from Pennsylvania. I just don't. I'm curious what our squirrel from Pennsylvania thinks about that, because she hasn't paid much attention to that case. And I think that is one of the reasons why, is because it's just so much effery. But yeah, that the arrest happened in her state 3,000 miles away, or 2,600 miles away. That's just crazy, isn't it? Kylie's case, CHP closed it, was an accident. Right. Well, they just closed it. I mean, and they already let the cat out of the bag by taking 2 years to close it. It's not going to take 2 years to close a motor vehicle accident report case. It just doesn't take 2 years. Unless it's because it's a cover-up, in my humble opinion. In my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. You guys know Rich Lux, right? He's hilarious. His channel, that's who I got that humble conspiracy theory opinion allegedly thing from. He cracks me up. Idaho 4 is still in progress. Right, because they just they put it in a new county, and so we don't have Judge to contend with the crazy name Judge anymore, so that's good. And what they've set some trial dates for 2026 or 2025. See, I'm not following it. So I think Idaho 4 is set for 2026, right? It's only like Madeline Soto's case that's set for 2025. And see, there's going to be a bunch of effery in that case too, because there's no way Steven Stearns wasn't connected to the whole underworld of all the stuff that we're talking about. So, yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the the aftermath of North Carolina for a moment, because that's just so sad and tragic. And, they kind of put a freeze on the number of fatalities right around October 5th. So it was like every day there was like 10 more. And then I think October 5th was a Saturday, and then it just like stayed at that number. And now here we are, October 22nd. And I think that they tried to do like what Hawaii did, where they tried to say, oh no, we spoke too soon. That wasn't quite 237. It's now down to 220 or something. So they're doing the back and forth thing. And a lot of these people's remains and trigger warning, if they're washed away in this giant flood, they're going to be obliterated. They're literally going to be like pulverized, again, trigger warning, pulverized, obliterated, and washed out to sea. You're never going to find the evidence of some of them. And if you have entire families that happened to, they're not going to be looking for each other or reporting each other missing. I mean, of course, you've got friends and neighbors and families, extended families that can report, but it just seems like there's a lot of suppression in that tragedy with the numbers. It seems like the numbers are sky high, just like the Lahaina fires, and they're doing everything they can to try to understate it and say, oh no, it's not as bad as we thought it was. It's crazy. It's so crazy. The numbers are all skewed, is what I think. I don't want to offend any of my viewers that won't think this is funny, but the whole thing over the weekend with the Freedom Fry cooker at McDonald's, Mickey D's, I thought of this in bed late last night, is it puts a whole new spin on the "you want fries with that" kind of thing. Let me just run down some quick facts that have my mind blown right now. So there was an airplane, you guys probably heard about this, a little airplane that flew over Taylor Swift's concert in Miami, Florida, with a Trump flag hanging off the back that said Trump 2024, ready for it, cat lady, ? MAGA. When I first heard that, and I heard that whole piece of information, like what I just said, I thought it couldn't possibly be. Maybe it was a Trump 2024 sign. Maybe they said ready for it, cat lady. Maybe it said MAGA on the back of the airplane. So I looked it up to see exactly what the flag said. And exactly what the flag said was Trump 2024 with quotes, ready for it, cat lady, end quote, and then MAGA. I was just like, what the F? Why does it come down to the pussycats with this guy every time? Why? I just can't. I just absolutely can't. But I did vote yesterday, and I'm feeling a lot less stressed out about it all. So, again, if I offend anybody, it's like, I'm sorry to offend people that I care about, but I'm not sorry to express my own opinion. I encourage all of us to express ourselves, because to me, that's just essential for health and wellness. I've tried to keep out of the politics, especially because I know some people here are not going to be voting for the Democratic ticket. So I did find some stuff out about Tim Walz that I was curious what type of high school teacher he was, because I thought he was like a history teacher, and he was not a history teacher. He was a geography teacher, but he got his bachelor's degree in social studies. So I just thought that was interesting. And his parents one of his parents was a school administrator, And the other parent was a community activist. And I thought, well, that's very liberal, huh? Community activist like Carol O'Connor. And he's the highest ranking soldier to ever serve in Congress. That's pretty darn impressive. And he was part of many, many committees in Congress, one of them being the Matthew Shepard Foundation, which I was very touched by that, because that Matthew Shepard case is a heinous, heinous hate crime. And I didn't even know that there was a Matthew Shepard Foundation in Congress. That's fantastic. So let's wrap it up. I wanted to talk for a minute. I know I jump around from a million cases to a million others. I wanted to talk about the Helena Hutchins case for a moment, because one of the things that upset me the most about that whole case when it got dismissed was how the judge and the people, Alec Baldwin's attorneys, tried to call the man the Good Samaritan that dropped off the random box of ammunition. And to me, calling him the Good Samaritan is like calling the fires in Lahaina wildfires on day one when you don't know what started them. I don't think that that guy was a Good Samaritan. I think that he was quite the opposite. I think he was a saboteur. And I think that they know that, and that they're calling him a Good Samaritan as part of the gaslighting. Just like right there, like you can't call him that unless you know for a fact that he's a Good Samaritan. But him throwing that box of ammo into the mix, being that he had a law enforcement background and even had acted as a judge at some point in his career, he knew exactly what he was doing. And he was doing that for his friend's daughter, for Hannah Gutierrez Reed, for Thal Reed, and also, of course, doing it for Alec Baldwin. But thank goodness Hannah Gutierrez Reed's case is still not overturned. Thank goodness. Because she was only sentenced to like 36 months, I think. And she's probably already getting close to halfway through that. And I think, if anything, I really think Alec Baldwin needs to be retried, because I think that that judge had the fix in from the beginning. She was not she was suppressing some evidence and then trying to call that random box of ammo evidence when it wasn't evidence. It had nothing to do with anything. And the guy was a day late and $1 short. Troy, what was his name? Troy Thiel, I think. That was so freaking gut-wrenching for me, for her family, for Helena Hutchins' kid and husband and her sister and her mother and her father, to get schlonged by freaking Alec Baldwin like that. I mean, it's bad enough that they lost her. There's nothing that can make up for that. But throwing the case out, dismissing it without prejudice, I really think that there's grounds for a lawsuit against that judge, but I don't know that that's going to get pursued. And I think I mentioned to you guys that I found a channel on YouTube of an attorney who was able to speak the language much more eloquently than I can about just that. And he's like the only other channel that I've come across that even thinks that way. Like, it seemed like everybody was just like, basically blindsided and bamboozled by the whole effery, and just like, oh yeah, well, evidence, Brady Giglio, blah, 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 thrown out, blah, blah, blah. Like, that whole thing was just effery from jump. And Alec Baldwin knew it. Remember in the trial when he was falling asleep. Remember in the trial when he just abruptly jumped up out of his chair and ran out of the courtroom without explanation, when when things were getting really uncomfortable with the things that people were testifying to that he didn't like. Yeah. And I'm sad to see that he's back on SNL. I like that comedy SNL, Saturday Night Live. And I was really happy that Beetlejuice left him out. And I was hoping that SNL would do the same. I mean, they have such a talented cast. They don't need him. Like, that just disgusts me. That just makes me want to have nothing to do with SNL. And they do have a lot of great comedians, but to be supporting him, to be paying him money, to be helping his career, he doesn't deserve that. He's scum. He's the scum of the earth. And let's see. Yeah, we do need to wrap. So, JLR and Magnolia walking around in Asheville, North Carolina. Cops stopped to tell them toxic air. Continue on at own risk. Oh my goodness. I haven't watched JLR in a while. I was watching a lot of JLR and Magnolia when they were in Springfield. And then, yeah, with all the storms, they were doing all kinds of storm chasing. Oh, and they also went to that small town in Kentucky and, went to the courthouse and went to, where the Sheriff Mickey shot Judge Kevin. I don't have their names written down right in front of me. Anyway, I have no idea what's going on with that case. I'm still extremely curious. I'm also really curious what's going on with Sandra Birchmore case with Matthew Farwell. Yeah. But thanks for that. Yeah, toxic air in Asheville. And it's such a pretty area, Asheville. And it seemed so like such a mild, mild environment weather-wise. It seemed like such a safe place. It's craziness, absolute craziness. Used to get history and geography confused when I was in high school. Oh, that's funny, JR Nana. Because, yeah, I thought that I had heard that he was a history teacher, and the source that I was looking at for the information was his biography online. And it could be that the source was confused. But, yeah, so apparently his college degree, his bachelor's degree, is in social studies. And then he joined the military and served for 28 years or something. And then when he came out of that, he became a high school teacher and allegedly was teaching geography. And I think that he did that for a long time before then becoming a politician. Personally, I think it's a pretty cool background for a politician. It makes somebody pretty well grounded. But I don't understand all the hang up with the whole French fry thing. But I did hear that the guy, the fry master, he got some kind of award for being a French fry genius or something. And then he was showing off his French fry certification pin in North Carolina and fouling up the whole infrastructure for people getting their daily stuff done, like getting to work, getting to doctor's appointments, and all the freeways were closed down, for Secret Service stuff. That's really unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. So I want to encourage anybody who's having anxiety about the candidates and the, just vote early if that's causing you stress. It had been causing me a lot of stress, and having voted just yesterday, I feel a lot better about it. I believe there is toxic air there, but I wonder if the emphasis is don't go back. There's stuff we don't want people to take notice of. Absolutely, JR Nana Boomer. There, I think both. I know there's a lot of suspicion with. I still pay attention to Brush Junkie. I'm not like in that camp. I'm not convinced of all of that, but I understand what she's talking about. Yeah, I mean, it makes you think of like the whole toxicity with East Palestine, Ohio, with all the train accidents and chemical spills. But yeah, I mean, it's always going to be toxic when you have flooding, and there's just all kinds of crap that gets into the water and then into the air, and it is just madness. But it's such a nice area, and yeah, I mean, maybe it's a land grab. I don't know. I mean, it is not an area that tends to get flooded. It tends to have mild weather, so I think people would feel fairly secure that it's not going to happen again, at least not for another 100 or 200 years, but who knows? I mean, those Appalachians are very, very serious, just driving through them. Like from Ohio to DC, you have to drive through the Appalachians, and it's not fun. It's scary. It's like driving on the Northern California coast on Highway 101. It's just like really windy and cliffs and, wet, bad weather, other cars, Mack trucks with their brakes going out. I mean, it's a freaking nightmare. Hey, Annabes, just wrapping up, my dear. Thanks for coming in and saying hi. Yeah, I'm just rambling on and on. I'm just really happy to be here. And Thursday, the day after tomorrow, Coco has her surgery for the cancer removal. And then she'll, after the surgery, after she recovers from that, she'll have radiation. So Coco's still good today. She gets to keep all 4 of her legs, which is awesome. Hopefully things go well. And the highways to Tibet in India. Ooh, I don't know about that, but I can imagine. Thanks, Annabes. Prayers for Coco. So real quick, I just want to mention Mr. Mark's channel. Did you guys hear that front door slam? Kids are home. Mr. Mark's channel that I saw he was live yesterday and thought, oh, he's going to think I've abandoned him and neglected him because I hadn't been in my circuit of everything that I normally do on YouTube for so long. And so I went in and said hi and, sorry, I haven't been ghosting people. And I don't think he'd been on like the whole time that I was like ghosting everybody. I think he was ghosting everyone too. So I thought that was funny, like cosmic, we're on the same wavelength. But yeah, hopefully things get better for him with his job search. I know that gets very stressful for him. And he's got his doggy also. I was just thinking about Mark. Haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. So he had a live yesterday, JR Nana. It was just like half an hour long, and I caught most of it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up since the house is burning down now. And I don't know if you can hear some of that like banging around. The kids are so funny. It's not like they're little, they're teenagers. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We're at an hour and 45 minutes. My goodness. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do a couple more lives this week, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure I had a good long one today. Haven't seen Mark either, but I haven't been on YouTube like I usually am. Oh, you too, Annabes. A whole bunch of us have been off. See, I've been so stressed out about the whole thing with the politics. Like, I've been watching a lot of political stuff and just trying to like educate myself about all that. And, I'm surprised that I'm even interested, but I am. I mean, I have very strong opinions about it. And I know we all have our own opinions and, nobody has to agree with me. That's for sure. but it just seems like a lot of YouTube is not in agreement with me. So I've just been kind of staying away from a lot of YouTube stuff. Um, but like I said, trying to get educated and watching political channels, watching the news a lot. I love trying to keep up with just regular day to day. And then doing the 2020s and 48 hours and Dateline, I love those things too. So I was going to recommend some of those. There's some about the whole Michael Jeffries thing. There's some shows on Netflix. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but I'll look them up and I'll put the names of them into the description. And yeah, just again, to underscore the importance of talking about domestic violence. And, thanks to Farrah Fawcett for kind of breaking the ice with making that okay to talk about in mainstream media with her Burning Bed television movie in the early 80s. My opinion is that you keeping your political views to yourself. My opinion is that keeping your political views to yourself. Well, and I have that opinion overall, but when I'm feeling things very intensely, it's like I just need to get things off my chest. So, yeah, like I said, hopefully my anxiety will be decreased now that I've already done my voting. I wasn't going to vote early, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I just went ahead and did it yesterday, and it felt really good to be done with it. I was going to save it for November 5th, but been there, done that. So, like I said, I recommend anybody who's feeling anxious about it just to go ahead and do it, because for me, it helped resolve some of my anxiety. We'll see what happens. I mean, it just honestly, Anna Bees, I love you. And I don't like it to interfere with, I have people in my life that I'm close with that have very different opinions. And they tell me how they feel and I tell them how I feel. But yeah, we try just to like set it aside. I'm just terrified of like the whole Handmaid's Tale thing coming to life. I mean, don't try to change others' minds. Exactly, Anna Bees. That's exactly where I'm coming from. Like, I don't want to change anybody's mind, and I don't want anyone to change my mind. It's like, if you change your mind, that's fine. That's your own prerogative. But not just with the presidential campaigns, but with anything. I'm just like, why do people want to win other people over to have the same opinion as them? It's like an insecurity thing. Like you don't feel secure in your own opinion unless other people agree with you. It's silly. I mean, yeah. So let me read your whole thing. I don't mean don't try to change others' minds. It's our own opinion. I mean, don't try to change others' minds. It's our own opinion. I can say I agree with their opinion, but I am not trying to change anyone's mind. Yeah, and just like the whole agree to disagree, I love that. I think that that's such wisdom. You can just agree to disagree and just agree to be kind about it and to try not to be insulting and that kind of thing. So, all right, you guys, peace out. Have a really good afternoon. Take care of yourself. Drink your water. I haven't drank water once in this whole thing. I'm always drinking my water. So anyway, I don't want to be dehydrated. Make sure you eat your protein and your veggies. Can I brag? I had vegetables with scrambled eggs for breakfast and then roasted vegetables and scrambled eggs for lunch because it was so delicious. And so that's all I've eaten today is roasted vegetables and scrambled eggs. So I feel super healthy. And this is why I'm always trying to remind you guys to eat your fruits and veggies and protein so that I can remind me, because I literally forget. And then, keeping up with the exercise, keeping up with your rest and relaxation, and just taking care of yourself. So important. So on that, love and light. Have a fabulous rest of your day and hope to see you tomorrow or shortly thereafter. And I am trying to do another yoga video. So if you're interested in that, hopefully in the next day or two, I'll have one that has the visual and the sound. So annoying. Bye, everyone. I'll have to watch the replay. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you, Jazz. Well, thank you. Dang it, Nancy, I missed yours. Honestly, I believe it's not an election. It's a selection. Peace, love, and blessings to you all. That's an interesting use of verbiage. All right, lovely people. Peace out. Have a fabulous day. And thanks so much for being here. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you.